This is episode 3 of the Chris and Christoff show. Today we will be talking about some random stuff that happened throughout the week, and then we will be talking about our favorite movies. We are both big movie whores, um, popcorn included. Get out your drinks. We'll listen to this show and indulge in what is the cinematic experience of the Chris and Christoff show. Anyways, so Chris, how was your week this week? I can't hear you. I didn't hear you just now.
It's been a week. Nothing too crazy. Sadly, I haven't seen any of the new movies out, but I'm hoping to go see them. Maybe one or two tomorrow, give or take. We'll see. But nothing too crazy. How about you, buddy?
Yeah, my aunt came from Houston during the winter vacation, so I went and saw the new Star Wars movie, and then I saw Uncut Gems and the Ford versus Ferrari movie, and then I went and saw 1917 the other day.
Jeez, man, I'm so behind.
I binged. I binged out.
This is unfair. I can't.
I lived in the movie theater for a week.
This isn't fair. I need to catch up.
Yeah, you do. You can cry. It's fine. We're only live.
I'll hold back the tears for now.
Yeah. So let's go over our top 5 movies of all time. It's very hard to break down. You can pick one series of movies while doing it, and then just go over it. We'll each go with our top movie to start off and kind of talk about it and have thoughts. So Chris, what's your number 1 movie?
Number 1 has always been Hidalgo.
Okay.
Yeah, it's. I can't remember
Do you think that Little Nas X, when he says he's got the horses in the back on his Old Town Road song, do you think he might have been watching Hidalgo when this all transpired?
It's very possible. There are a lot of horses in Hidalgo. There are a lot of horses, especially the end scene. It's a pretty glorious scene. Yeah, it's very possible he was listening to and watching Hidalgo. Very possible. But yeah, it's just been a favorite of mine. The story itself is very simple, but it's very touching. It's got a down and out cowboy, Frank. He goes to Arabia to race in a very deadly race, and he encounters some problems along the way in the race. And the bond between them, everything that Hidalgo does for him and vice versa, just pulls on the old heartstrings. I just love it. I need to rewatch that tonight.
So is the number 1 reason you like this film because of the unconditional love that man shows for animal, or is it just the overall American backstory of underdog wins it all?
Yes. And it's also based on a true story.
Yes to both, or yes. Which one tops the other?
No, it's about the same. I mean, it's always nice to see the underdog win, but with everything he went through in the race, plus everything that he fought for with Hidalgo, everything that Hidalgo went through, and Frank helped Hidalgo get through it, and it's just, I would definitely recommend it to anyone who hasn't seen it. It is a very feel-good movie. I just love it. What about you, buddy? What's your number 1?
Do you think it's weird that Hidalgo wasn't used in Lord of the Rings as the horse they ride, or do you think that both of the horses were the same?
I don't think they were the same horse. I know that Viggo Mortensen actually bought the horse that played Hidalgo, so there's a chance that he used him on the set, but I doubt it.
That'd be an interesting story, I think.
Not really.
We should look more into that.
What's your number 1, dude?
my number one movie of all time goes to Anchorman. And it's the story of a anchor man, but not like a boat anchor. Like, it's back in the time where women weren't allowed as much in the workforce, and then diversity set in, and there's this pretty woman played by Christina Applegate, who ends up going into the news team, and it ruins everything for the news team, essentially. It's just a great story. I love it. A lot of good laughs out of it. It's Anchorman, not Anchor Lady, is one of the best lines ever. After this episode, I might be put down as a misogynist, I feel.
I'm pretty sure. So what makes...
I watched that since I was a kid, though, Anchorman. Anchorman has been a childhood favorite. It's made me the man I am today.
Which is on the fence of if that's good or bad. You're very kind of big.
Yeah. It's
So why do you like it so much, buddy? I know you've been watching it since you were a kid, but what is the allure?
I just think that Judd Apatow doesn't get enough credit for some of the movies he's made. Because he made Anchorman, and the writing between him and Will Ferrell was like amazing there. It's like one of the movies that started to have Will Ferrell trend towards the upper spiral of movies for him, like his forefront, I should say.
Yeah, I could see that.
And just in a way, I don't think that movie would really pass in today's date and time. But like, it's just so funny because it was made probably about 10 years ago or 15 years ago now, and they bring up diversity in the workplace. They have a special needs guy on the team that they make fun of. It's just, there's a lot of things in it that make it funny to me.
I dig it.
Yeah. On to number two, and there's a cameo with Jack Black in there too. For whoever hasn't seen it, I'm not gonna spoil it, but like that scene, to get Jack Black in there to do that scene was hilarious.
I have yet to watch it.
Yeah. Number two though, Chris, what's your second favorite movie?
For me, it's been updated to Alita: Battle Angel. It came out last year. Yeah. And basically, it's about 300 years after the fall, the war that basically tore the planet to crap. A doctor finds a cyborg with a young woman's brain inside the cyborg. After repairing her body and having her wake up, they realize she has no memory of her past except glimpses she gets from time to time when she gets into an altercation. Giving her the name Alita, the story begins unfolding about her past, her present, and her future. Everyone realizes there is much more than meets the eye when it comes to this battle angel. I'm not gonna lie, I'm really happy I wrote that. Love it.
I love your writing, Chris, but at the same time, that writing makes it sound a little bit like Alita might have just woken up from a weeks-long hangover.
It's possible. I mean, they don't really say what went into the sleeping and waking up, but yeah.
So let me tell you, the human mind is very fragile, and I have every reason to believe that the way that sounds, she probably hasn't been in that scrapyard for long. She probably just had a little bit too much Ron Diaz and Rumple Minze, and she just passed out there. I mean, I've been to a few bachelor parties where I don't remember most of it, and I have to recollect it. So I'm going to say that pretty much the synopsis of this movie is that Alita woke up from a weeks-long hangover after hanging with the girls, and she just happened to know all that stuff.
See, now I would go into detail about it, but I don't want to ruin it if anyone wants to watch it. So you should also watch it. That way I can laugh at you when you realize that that's not even close to it at all.
I really discredit this film.
Yeah, but that doesn't really shock me. Because it's got strong, powerful women, and you're not a fan of that. After your first movie choice.
You know what? I'm gonna surprise you here.
Oh. What you
Should
got
I say my number 2 now?
Hey, you might as well. If it's gonna prove me wrong, do it.
Yeah. So, my number 2 movie is the Star Wars series. I loved it, and then I even liked the recent movies that they made, the 7 through 9, where Daisy Ridley was, you know, a Jedi.
She kicked ass.
Yeah, and she was a good actress, and I mean, even though Disney tried to, you know, implant all this stuff into our minds with their female CEO, I really liked the films, but the 8th one I gotta say really sucked. But yeah, that's my number 1 like series / my second movie choice. For all of you guys that haven't seen the Star Wars films, go watch them. I can't explain all of it. It's a long story. It's made up of 9 films with 2 secondary films, which is the Han Solo movie, as well as why am I forgetting it right now, Chris? Rogue One, which is about how they brought down a system in the first 3 movies.
Technically 4, 5, and 6. If you're going to get the full impact of Star Wars, you have to start 4, 5, 6, then do the prequels, and then do the sequels.
Yeah. You knew what I was talking about there. Yeah.
I did, but I wasn't sure if anyone watching may have not ever seen Star Wars. I will
say it is kind of messed up, though, that that even though Luke, who was played by
Mark Hamill,
didn't get a little bit more scenes in the last few films. I feel like with him being one of the lone survivors and main characters, they should have given him a little bit more time.
Now, what were you saying when you said the president of CEO or of Disney is trying to push stuff into people's heads? What was she trying to push?
I just find it very weird that since Star Wars got taken over by Disney, we have a female Jedi who's the number 1 Jedi in power, you know, and then, to be honest, the Marvel franchise with Captain Marvel coming along and the huge scene at the end of Endgames with essentially the uprising of 5 women.
Don't get me started on that scene.
I get a little bit scared.
Well, my problem with the
I think
scene
we're just going a little bit too far with it. And
I have no problem with those movies, but the one in Endgame it made no logical sense. She literally just destroyed Thanos' ship by cruising through it.
She just
and then she gets the gauntlet.
Get where I'm a little bit. Yeah.
And Peter's like, I don't know how you're gonna get through those guys. I'm like, dude, did you not see what she just did? Like, how is this even a question? That's like, go. And then they're like, oh, she'll have backup. She doesn't need backup. She's backup the cavalry, the reinforcements, every other word you can think of for backup. The only one who might help her is Scarlet Witch.
where I'm getting there. Essentially, it's essentially showing like women need to stand together in order to fight the battle. I
Well, like they could have done that in such a better way. That's the thing. I'm all for girl power, but when they try and display it, like I have no problem with Rey. I have no problem with Captain Marvel being Captain Marvel because fairly certain she is that cocky in the comics, if I remember correctly, or at least in the incarnations I've seen her as, she's been fairly cocky. But when I'm like, you have someone as powerful as Captain Marvel come in, she takes the gauntlet. She doesn't need backup. Like they could have extended that entire fight scene to show more of the women fighting and kicking butt, but they tried to shoehorn this girl power scene, which made no sense. And they could have made it way better by doing more like fly-throughs through it and showing more of everything going on instead of what they did, is my opinion. But
yeah.
But yeah, that's my biggest problem. That the end fight scene was just too short for me. Too short.
Well, you can go on with your third movie now, Chris. I'd love to hear what it is. Thanks for allowing me to put my input in on the whole situation.
My third one is the MCU because I couldn't pick I have select movies that I really like Winter Soldier, The First Avengers, Infinity War, and various others, but they all culminate into one really, really cool ending. So I had to pick the MCU as my series. And I've grown up with the characters Spider-Man, Cap, Iron Man, whole 9 yards. So I couldn't just leave them out in the cold. I just couldn't. But yeah, there's not a whole lot to say about it since pretty much everyone knows about the MCU. It makes me all happy inside seeing the characters I grew up with on the big screen and everything. So, all right, buddy, what's your number 4?
No, give me my number 3.
Yeah, whichever.
But I gotta say, on the Marvel Cinematic Universe, great choice for your number 3. It was a close first for Star Wars versus that, for my series one that I got to pick out of the 5. What are your thoughts though on them having to remake? I mean, Sony obviously had most of the Spider-Man movies, so that's one of the things that I thought was good by Disney was the choice to partner with Sony in order to make the Spider-Man movies, because they've obviously been upgraded since Homecoming and the latest Spider-Man movie, but Sony kind of hit the trash with it, almost like it was a DC universe movie on the first 2 sets. What would you say?
The Tobey Maguire movies, he was a great Peter. As Spider-Man, he was too serious, I thought, and so for me, it was the second movie was where I think Tobey Maguire shined. He had more of the witty banter with the villains and more having fun with it. And Doc Ock was just a fantastic villain. The third one is just one that everyone wants to forget. Because I'm a big fan of Venom because he's dope. And you only need like one side villain to kind of fill in the bits where Venom isn't there. But if Venom Eddie Brock, you only need Venom because he knows everything about Peter. And first part of the movie, Peter getting it, and then losing it, then Eddie getting it, and then just terrorizing Peter. And so it's just.
And that with that Red Foreman would have just put his foot up Venom's ass. Is the other thing.
I mean, yeah, that's a given.
So, I mean, there's that aspect of it too. I don't think they really picked a good Venom.
He did good with what he had, but no matter what iteration of Venom you see, it's not a scrawny, the nerdy photographer. It's a more beefy. I mean, it's similar to like the Rock's build, comparatively.
Yeah.
Because it just, maybe not fully Dwayne Johnson, but similar build compared to Topher Grace, who he did fine with what he had, but he's not very intimidating, I thought.
And that's what I was saying. And you're so used to him as being, in that 70s show. And I think there's a big part of movies where past characters, for a lot of people, it's kind of hard to get past them, especially when they're as iconic as Eric Foreman. I think the best actors to kind of get away from that always, and that's why they're known as the top actors within the world, would be like Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio, as well as Christian Bale's, because they're not really known for being one type of person. They've been in so many roles, and they can switch into those roles really well.
Yeah, well, and the problem is that when you've been on a TV show for so long, you get typecast as that, and it's hard for, even if he were to say kill it as like Goblin or Hobgoblin, or kind of the more fitting villains of who he would be, it's hard for everyone else to see him as anyone else other than Foreman. So that's one big thing, is that when you do a TV show for so long, it's hard for someone to see you as anyone else except for that character that you played for 5, 10, 15, however many years whoever has played it. So that makes it extra hard. Like I said, I thought he did good with what they gave him, but you either needed to get rid of Sandman or New Goblin. You either needed to have, and Peter did not go emo and start dancing. That is the one thing that, pissed pretty much everyone off about that movie, I'm pretty sure. But it increased his rage, his aggression, he became more dominant, essentially. From every iteration I saw in the 1990s cartoon, which I loved. So he wouldn't have become the Spider-Man 3. He wouldn't have become that, in my opinion. He would become more forward, more, prone to aggression, prone to violence, everything like that. And then I'd say third of the way through the movie, something to that extent, he'd go to the clock tower, get rid of the suit, finds Eddie, and then their final battle with Spider-Man in between, fighting either New Goblin or Sandman, preferably Sandman, because New Goblin should have had a movie on his own with a smaller character like Electro.
Yeah.
Or Rhino, someone to just kind of fill in while you kind of set up the fight for New Goblin. So there were so many things that they could have done, but if I remember correctly, I think it was Sony that screwed that up, because they pressured Sam Raimi into putting Venom in there, which was
exactly, and that's where that's where I agree totally with the takeover by Disney to finally kind of get the MCU, because if they would have tried to base the Spider-Man before Civil War off the Sony one, or even during Civil War with a Sony one, I think it would have went horrible.
Well, and they just, like I said, I thought that Tobey Maguire did great as Peter, but as Spider-Man he was kind of hit and miss. But then Andrew Garfield, I thought, killed it as Spider-Man, but as Peter he was, too moody and emotional is the only way I could put it. He just didn't really feel like Peter to me. But Spider-Man, he totally killed it. And then in the second Spider-Man, there was no need for Rhino. There was no need for Rhino in that movie. He was at screen for like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It was just a waste of character.
You're talking about the second movie of the second setting of Spider-Man with that one.
Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
And there's no need for him. So.
Yeah, I agreed. You could tell though that was a setup to go towards the third movie, and it just didn't work out in the end.
Yeah, well, they were trying to set up for Sinister Six, which is fine, but you don't need Rhino. He's never been a big arch villain of Spider-Man. He's just kind of the filler character that is fun to watch. He's got some cool abilities, but he's no Carnage, no Venom, no Goblin, none of the big baddies for Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm. And no, agreed.
On top of that, at the end of it, when, spoiler alert, when Gwen dies, I understand that he was upset, she just died and everything, but I'm like, dude, why do you not go up there and kick his butt? go into a vicious fight, then go down and mourn her. Let the rage fill you and kick his butt. I'm just saying that there was a wasted epic fight that could have been done, but I think they even filmed one, but they ended up using the one they put in the movie.
Yeah.
Either way. It was, yeah, they could have improved, but I am glad that Disney bought or made a deal with them to get the rights to use Spidey. So hopefully they can keep that going, or Sony can somehow agree to keep the deal going so they can merge Morbius and Venom and everything into MCU somehow, or vice versa, without showing the MCU. So they just have to mention it and within the same continuity. Hopefully.
Yeah.
What number are we on?
I'm on my number 3. I'm gonna have to go with here the Batman Dark Knight. So I'm not going with the series of Batman, but the Dark Knight has to be my number 3. Dark Knight Rises was good, but I think just the overall acting ability of the villain in there, with Heath Ledger, was just amazing, and it really personified the craziness of the Joker with the many things that got brought up, like the pencil scene. The first scene was amazing. Whoever decided to do the first 10 minutes where they're breaking into the bank and everything that happened with that scene was a genius, because that set up the whole film, where it showed really too how the Joker tends to make everything into a theater almost, and the breaking up of how the scene went and him killing the guy at the end as the bus ran through the building was just perfect.
I do agree. Heath Ledger freaking killed it as that. The only thing that bugged me in the opening scene, when the bus pulls out of the bank, how did no one call the cops?
Yeah, you and I both.
I should probably write that down. Hang on. And they waited for that bus to pull out, by the way.
Yeah,
instead of locking it in.
It shows how corrupt that city is, and at the same time too, it's funny because those kids, if you remember in that scene when the bus pulls out, there's kids in the bus behind that go, yeah! And it's kind of like, they even added in that sound. It's like perfect. It's like, what do you expect kids to do when they see a huge cloud of dust just coming out?
But yeah, I definitely agree. That was a killer movie. And it would have been amazing if he was able to make it to Dark Knight Returns and see what more he could have done with Joker.
Yeah, no, I agree. So going on, what's your number 4 now?
I have to go with Edge of Tomorrow. Basically, it's Aliens meets Groundhog's Day. It's the basic...
Edge of Tomorrow, you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Basically, it takes the premise from Groundhog's Day of reliving the same day, but it adds in the fact of there's an alien invasion, and this guy's reliving the same day for the same invasion, trying to figure out what's causing it, how to stop it, anything of that, and it's much better than I would have thought. So it's I've watched it many times, and I still enjoy watching it. The way they filmed it, they used a lot of practical effects. The suits they wore were all practical. They filmed with missiles flying overhead, so they had rockets on strings that were flying over, and everything like that, from basically being in the mud to trying to do as much practical as you can with aliens, who, when you see the design of them, they really can't be practical. So they did it. I think it was Doug Liman, I want to say, who directed it. I think he directed the first Born, and they highly recommend it.
That's another great series. We'll probably do an episode on our favorite series of movies of all time. In a later episode for our show, by the way.
For sure.
And then we'll put a link to this. But yeah, there's just a ton of great films that have been made into series. As for The Edge of Tomorrow or whatever, Why wasn't that Alita chick there if she's in the future?
I couldn't tell you, buddy. It mostly because Lita was further in the future than Edge of Tomorrow.
My number 4 is, drum roll please.
That was a terrible drum roll, but it's the best I got right now with my bum shoulder.
It's La La Land.
I have not seen it. I know there's singing involved, and that's about it.
It's a beautiful story. A lot of singing involved. Kind of how two people just happen to bump into each other. It has the great Ryan Gosling in it, and Emma Stone, who's a very impressive actress, who I find very attractive. Side note.
She is gorgeous.
And I think it's just really the end note that kind of shows that we all need to follow our dreams, and at the same time, as long as we follow our dreams, we're not always gonna end up getting what we fully want in the end. Expectations versus reality.
It's a very touching story. I love it.
Yeah.
My turn?
Yeah, this is our last one, number 5. Choose wisely, Chris. What do you got here?
Well, I had to go with Bumblebee. It was the Transformers movie that didn't make me want to rip what I have left of my hair out. And the first Transformers and the third Transformers I thought were good, but they had the very Michael Bay tropes in it. But my biggest problem was that they focused so hard on the humans aspect that instead of seeing more wide shots of the bots fighting, they showed it from like the humans' perspective, and the bots would just be in the camera line, but you'd be doing like this the entire time, and so that always irked me. I thought the Dark Side of the Moon improved that, but then they just went pretty much right after that, and it was bad. And so when Bumblebee came out, I was very hesitant, but I believe the director Travis Knight took over, and Michael Bay was just on producing, and I was on the fence only because I didn't know how much power Bay had as being producer. Like if he could just kind of shoehorn in and go, you need 5 more explosions by that little tank over there, at least 5.
Yeah.
Or throw in 10 and then a cheerleader running by. Well, you'll figure it out, but just be sure you put those explosions in. Totally unnecessary, make no sense, but just do it. And
I think that the character makeup though throughout the first 3 Transformers movies with Shia LaBeouf and Megan Fox, I thought that the way that they set up the stories were fantastic, and the characters really grew as people throughout, and that's what I liked about those first 3, because it showed Shia LaBeouf coming out of high school after being that teen who was kind of scared and didn't even want to ask out Megan Fox, to being like the guy who's at college and you could tell had more confidence due to the outcomes following the first one. And then the third one I really loved because although it was the end of that set of films, I can't even say I really loved it, actually, because Megan Fox was gone, and I got really hurt by that a little bit. But I thought that it was great seeing his. Yeah, I thought it was great having his parents back in the scenes.
They are good comic relief. I do like them.
Yeah.
The second one was far too long, and there was a few things I definitely would have changed about the second one, though. But the first and third one were definitely I enjoyed. But Bumblebee, they took everything. I mean, they set up first. You get to see Cybertron, like the fall of Cybertron, the Autobots fighting Decepticons on Cybertron, awesome. And then you see B come to Earth, and he gets into another fight, and then it goes into the human aspect of it, where the girl Charlie finds him and fixes him up. And then as the fights progress, you notice that they're not going from the human perspective. They're actually showing more Bumblebee doing it, showing more wide shots. And my favorite frickin' thing was at the end fight, when they would, because she wants to try and help, and the dumpster that B put her in to protect her got flipped over, so she didn't need to be in there. They showed her doing various things, but the bots were always either behind her or basically there. So one scene, she's running towards this giant tower to get to the top of it, and B and the bad guy are fighting behind her, and then she gets to the ladder and starts climbing, and they cut to the bots fighting again. Instead of showing her just climbing all the way, they just have them fighting, and then they cut to her at the top or wherever, and they do that.
Yeah.
So show, okay, she's here doing that. Let's go back to here. Cut back here. She's up here. Great. And they do that instead of trying to like save on the budget and do them just in the background. And it actually ended up being the cheapest, I believe, Transformers movie. And just, I can't recommend it enough. They killed it.
Yeah, well, they didn't have to do as many of the tennis ball scenes and everything like that. But my last question upon the Bumblebee movie, number one, do you think they'll make a number 2 of Bumblebee? And my second question is, being that Haley Steinfeld is the main character in that movie, an actress, have you listened to any of her music? What is her acting skills versus her musical skills?
As far as making a second one, I hope so, but I'm assuming it's a reboot of the franchise. If I'm to understand, because the way they set it up, it doesn't flow with how the first one starts. Because the first one starts with Sam finding Bumblebee, then Bumblebee contacting Optimus and all the bots coming. This one ends with Bumblebee and Optimus in the forest, and then you see more bots flying from the sky. So they either would have to have a second movie to clear up how the other bots leave and Bumblebee gets stuck here, which then leads to him being in the lot where Sam finds him, or they just do a reboot basically and say this is new, which I'd totally be okay with if they kept with either Travis Knight directing or someone who can direct similar. And then as far as, I didn't even know she sang. I only learned that when I was doing my podcast, writing about the episode and everything, and I saw a video where she talked about it, and I thought she did fantastic in the movie. She killed it with the action and just the trope of losing a family member and the grieving process through that and all of that, and then the emotional things tugged at the heartstrings because they changed B's design, so they made him more expressive. Because in the first original series, he's expressive, but they added a lot more to it, I think, and it added to the whole deal. And I can only imagine that having to act with a torso of Bumblebee or a hand and nothing else had to be kind of tough, and I thought she did fantastic. But I definitely need to look up her music, because I think she sang the end song at Bumblebee, I believe. I know she has a song in the soundtrack. What's your number 5, buddy?
Guess what my number 5 would be.
Step Brothers.
It's only, the best duo of all cinematic experiences of John C. Reilly with Will Ferrell. It is Step Brothers. I mean, who would have thought that there could have been a better movie than Talladega Nights? And then all of a sudden, Step Brothers shows up, and it blew my mind. I think the thing about that movie is the first time you watch it, you kind of get like a few chuckles, but like the second and third time when you realize what's happening and everything, you just start to crack up. And like them picking the brother too into the movie, like halfway through, and adding the dynamics of having a brother in this stepbrother scene, and they're obviously like 30 years old.
Yeah.
What's your favorite stepbrother scene?
I don't think I've watched more than 5 minutes of Step Brothers.
Huh.
I know the scene where they pick bunk beds and then one of them jumps on top and then crushes the other. It falls on the other. Because of their fantastic craft work, and I know that one.
Yeah. It's totally childish, but in an adult form.
Childish, but in an adult form.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Interesting.
Because imagine if they would have put kids in that movie. It would have just been a normal movie, you know? But to have it as two 30-year-olds that are living with their parents still is what makes that movie.
I don't disagree there. I definitely don't. It's never really been my kind of comedy, my kind of movie, for whatever reason. Just never cared to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
I know Napoleon Dynamite when I was in middle school was like all the rage, and pretty much everyone was saying how funny it was. I couldn't make it through 10 minutes of it. I just got bored, and I was like, okay, we're done.
I know. That's the same with me. You get one honorable mention. What would you say is your honorable mention?
Ooh. I was gonna say Inception, but I have to go with Warrior. It was kind of that diamond in the rough, I think. I don't think it got all the recognition that it should have gotten. Having a brother, it kind of tugged at my heartstrings, and especially what you see what Tom Hardy's character goes through in the movie, that and everything that they have to kind of do, and it just cannot recommend that movie enough. It was very well done. And,
do you think it must have been weird for the brother to find out that his brother, after that cage fight, ended up becoming Bane and trying to kill Batman later on in life? Or
no, that's a pretty reasonable thing to do after everything he went through.
Yeah. I mean, that's what war does, I heard. I heard people turn into Bane nowadays.
Similar, I think. Some people. But some people can turn into Batman.
Yeah.
Just all depends on...
My honorable mention goes to the movie Hitch with Will Smith.
Ooh, yes.
And Eva Mendes. I received my first kiss to that movie, and I've loved it ever since. It has a personal meaning to me, and I think that was Will Smith finally being in a role where it was lifelike, because before that he was in Men in Black and Bad Boys, and this one was actually
more grounded.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the movie.
Yes. And Kevin James was a great pickup for the little bit of comical relief of the guy that is like probably you or I, where he's not smooth, you know. He's a guy that makes a lot of mistakes, but in the end still finds love.
I still haven't found the whole love thing, but yeah, I make a lot of mistakes, and I do not pick up on cues if a girl is flirting with me.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Episode 5 of our show will be on just specifically dating. I thoroughly enjoyed our movie segment here on episode 3. I think that if anybody was having a rough day, they generally have their top movie they'll go to, and they'll have their reasons for it. Cinema brings a lot of people together, especially families, and is a great way to get a first date. In fact, many times one of us has done that, which would be me. And yeah, I just love this episode. Until next time, thank you to all the fans that watch.
Thank you to everyone for watching, and if you'd be so kind as hit that thumbs up button if you enjoyed it, that'd be fantastic. Maybe consider subscribing just so you don't miss any future videos that we post. Alright, thank you for watching. I hope you have a great day. Or night.